Hey,
And there
bro.
he is. There he is. Yeah, I can see you and I can hear you.
Yeah, my kids are notorious for disappearing my things, and I can't find my my stand for my phone, so I'm just gonna have to hold it. I was hoping I could get on with my computer, but
Oh
guess not.
man,
So it may be a little wobbly tonight.
that's all right. If you're
But
drinking something, that'll excuse it.
I got port, cheap port.
Oh, port, man, I love a good port.
Yeah, so that's what I got. What are you drinking?
Scotch.
Ah, what kind?
Glen Moraney.
Ah, I don't know if I've ever tried that.
Yeah, hang on for a second. Let me pull up the bottle and let you have a look. See.
Oh yeah, I never have. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow. I can't wait till we can get together in person.
I know, man. It's
We'll
gonna
have to
be.
take like a week and try wine and scotch and
Yeah, that is gonna be absolutely amazing
yeah,
when we get a chance to do that. Hang on for a
yeah.
second to make a
Let's
quick
see if I can
adjustment with the
set this
tripod
here
here.
like
There we
this.
go.
So you had kind of a rough week, huh?
Well, it was. I'll tell you what. If this is about as close to hell without actually being unemployed as you can get. It's
Oh
been
man, that
and,
is
and
tough.
my thing is that if you can get to the point where you say, okay, we know what the mission is and we're just going to
Hmm.
do our jobs, everything works out good at that point. The problem is that when people interject their personalities and personal preferences and all of that, then it starts to get a little confused, and so
Yes,
that
sir.
leads up to our subject for the night,
Yes, sir.
because uh, we had talked about this, friends, that we're going to talk about ego tonight,
Yep. Yep.
and here's the thing, right? I've been doing a little bit of homework on this since we chatted,
Okay.
and only for the reason that, like, I know people have told me, they said, well, Derek, you have a big ego. People tell me that, right? And so I said, okay, what exactly is this ego thing, and is it really a bad thing? That's the big question, and you'll be surprised at the answer. You know, because we've been told that we want to, be egoless, right? You
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
what religion has taught us. That we check our egos at the door,
Hmm.
and we just become like happy little robots.
Yep.
and,
Yep.
and what I learned is that ego, literally, in the most clinical sense, is simply the identification, or the definition of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
Hmm.
and here's the thing. This is what's beautiful, right? That you are you,
Right.
and you're fucking awesome. As a matter of fact, you who are watching,
Yes.
you are fucking awesome. Every
Yes.
one of you, right? And that's cool. The problem is, people try to teach us that no, you're not awesome. You're
Yep.
just another brick in the wall, another cog in the machine. You
Yep.
know, and so when I did my studying, I found out that it actually takes a little bit of ego to grow.
Yep. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up like that because when we decided to talk about it, I wasn't sure what your take on it was going to be, and I've been arguing a little bit on some of my live videos that we don't want to get rid of our ego. In fact, it's impossible.
Yeah.
People that want to be ego-less, I just tell them good luck with that. And a lot of them, I'll just be, I don't mean this in any kind of condescending way, but a lot of them are kind of brand new to spirituality or they're deconstructing from Christianity, and so
Mhm.
they're trying something new. But I come from a clinical background. I come from a psychology background, and the idea, I think, is to develop a strong and healthy ego.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would use different terminology, I think, to talk about what some spiritual teachers or whatever talk about when they talk about ego.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for this, man, because I think, yeah, you need to have a good ego. And I'd even like to get into the non-duality. Everybody talks about this non-dualism.
Yeah.
What you do to someone else, you do to yourself. And that ethic will get you so far, you know.
Yep.
Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. But here's the problem with that, Derek. And maybe, I don't know if we talked about this before, but like you remember Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, right?
Yep. Yeah. I was talking about
So,
that all this week.
okay, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, so one of my love languages is words of affirmation. I like verbal encouragement,
Me
that kind of
too.
thing. No wonder we like each other so much. And but my wife, you know, her love language is definitely acts of service.
So's mine.
Shit, we definitely need
I
to get
mean,
together and
no
drink.
shit. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
So if I do unto her as I would do unto me, I just go around telling her I love her all the time, how beautiful she is, how great she is, give her all this verbal affirmation, but she's not feeling the love, you know. But
Right.
if I do the dishes, I clean the house, I, you know, do some yard work, something like that, she's like, oh baby. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So so I think it's better, but that's her ego, that's my ego. So I have to have a healthy ego, and I have to be able to recognize her needs as different than my own. So I think the do unto others will get you so far, but it breaks down in certain contexts, and that's certainly one of them.
Yep. You know, I've been posting some stuff on LinkedIn about EQ, emotional quotient, right?
Yep, yep,
And how I believe that EQ is greater than IQ.
yes,
That
I
if
agree.
your emotional quotient is higher, you know, you're going to succeed. Now, and here's the case study in a couple of these articles that I posted. We're talking about Steve Jobs,
Hmm.
right? And everybody who knew Steve Jobs knew that he had a larger than life ego, and that it was said that he could be a dick. You know, this was, and but the thing was is that he was not just he wasn't just a dick for the sake of being a dick. What he was is that he understood the value of emotional content, and he understood how to trade in it. And
Hmm.
so he said some people who worked around Steve Jobs, they were like just constantly edified that he brought out the best in them. And then there were some people that he ground to powder, right? Because basically you didn't meet your expectations, so you know, right? That was,
Right.
and that was how that, you know, he was viewed in one of those two extremes. But what they were saying in the article is that Steve Jobs was never just being deliberately mean. The
Hmm.
thing was is that he understood the value of emotion, and he understood uh, how to play his ego like an instrument,
Wow.
and to play the egos of others like an instrument.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was like, it was mind blowing. Because you know, I've always heard, like, you know, some people who are humble, and they, you know, they lower themselves and don't think so highly of themselves, that these are the people that are going to be successful. And I'll tell you, you know, like all throughout my not just my adult life, from the time I was a child, I've always felt like I had to keep things in check, you
Yep,
know,
I can relate to
because
that.
I'm like, okay, I'm smart. I know I'm smart. You know, I think I'm good looking. You know, so on and so forth, and so all of these different things. And so I always thought that I had to keep all of this in check. But what I'm learning now is that that my ego has been the source of my growth. It has
Mm.
been the driver for me obtaining knowledge. It's been the driver for me learning skills. It's been the driver for the types of relationships that I have, and it's really and when I look back on it in retrospect, man, I'm like, holy crap, this was not a bad thing. You know,
Right.
ego was not a bad thing. This was actually helping me. And what I was trying to do was trying to suppress the very thing that was driving me forward. It's
It's definitely a paradigm shift, especially for people that are into spirituality, because and this comes from the East. This is totally Eastern philosophy. I don't care where somebody says they claim they get their source of knowledge from. You know, in the East, they're trying to escape life, in this world.
Mm-hmm.
There and so your yogis, your gurus, these are people that often go off in monasteries in Tibet. You know, the monks are off in monasteries, and they're trying to obliterate their sense of self, because with that sense of self, it keeps them on that cycle of reincarnation, right? So the Eastern philosophy, or the Eastern approach to mysticism or spirituality, is to withdraw from the world,
Mm-hmm.
and to, if you can withdraw enough from the world, you can work out all your karma and stuff, and you won't come back. You'll just
Yeah.
immerse into source energy or God or whatever they call it, and become one with that.
Yep.
Good luck with that in the Western world.
Well, I'd say even good luck with it, because
Yeah.
all it is just another way of trying to manipulate,
Yep.
what your afterlife looks like. And that brings me to something too. I've been really harping on these three words for the last 2 years. These three words keep coming back to me over and over and over again. Be here now.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and I can't be here now if I'm focused. I can't even be here now if I'm really focusing on what tomorrow is, or even
Yeah.
the next minute. It's like, and so what I'm learning is that my ego, understanding myself, and honestly, yes, a little self gratification helps
Yeah.
me to be mindful, helps me to be in the moment.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let's just look at it this way. Why are we here? To be, one with God. Well, I mean, we could do that, or we were that before we came here in this body. So, I
Sure.
mean, what's the point? I mean, why do we've got a limited amount of time on this earth in these bodies? Why are we trying to waste it or escape it by trying to be what actually we might be in the afterlife, or were we before we came here? I think we came here to engage life, to learn and to grow, and to move forward and move the needle for humanity and consciousness and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but also to enjoy life, to experience the physical realities, like you said, a little bit of pleasure. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, just hold on one second because my dog's barking like
All
crazy.
right. You're good.
But I mean, heck, I mean, I like sex, so just coming here for that was worth it for me.
Yeah. My have the best. I think the best interpretation of this. She said, "What if this thing that we call life is like an amusement park ride, right?"
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
we're at the amusement park with Papa, with Mama, with Source or whatever, right? And we say, "Ooh, I want to ride that one." And so you ride the ride, right?
yeah, yeah,
And the ride is either something that really gratified you, and you say, "Ooh, I want to ride it again." See, you're a dad, and you've taken your kids to the park or to the amusement park, and when they do something, like they go down the slide, and they're like,
yeah,
"Ooh, I want to do that again,"
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like her thing is that this thing we call life, is basically like an amusement park ride. We go there, we go to Universal Park, and we
right,
and we get on rides, and if we like the ride, we ride it again. If not, we move on to the next ride. And but the thing is that and now here's the other thing. In order for me to get that, I had to subordinate some of the things that I'd already been taught. And see, there's a difference between, I think, subordinating what you've learned versus subordinating who you are.
oh, come on, man, that's good.
And so people talk about
Talk
deny
about that.
self, right? And they say, be like
Yep.
Jesus, deny self. You know what? The Apostle Paul wrote that Jesus thought not that it was robbery to consider himself equal with God.
Right.
So in that regard, did Jesus really deny himself? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Well, you could take it one step further. Look at John. I mean, we make messages or whatever. You hear about the I am statements of Jesus. Well,
Yeah.
those are all ego. In fact, the Greek word for I is ego.
Yeah.
So, when Jesus, I think Jesus had a very strong ego. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the good shepherd. I am the true vine. I mean, you can't make those kind of statements
And you
and
know,
be
it's,
egoless.
you know what, this was something that really tripped me out, that word I am, or that phrase I am, that is uh, linguistically or etymologically similar to ohm.
Oh, wow.
You know, that when you say ohm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm affirming myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we say I am, it's just another way of saying ohm. And
Wow.
here's the thing, that when you say I am followed by something, you're affirming or denying something.
Yeah,
And so when I think
I
about
can
this,
see
like
that.
when I've gotten into chanting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where I'll take this time, you know, and I'll sit and I'll get centered and I'll om and I'll
Mm-hmm.
do that. And what is interesting about that is that the thought that I have when I om is the same thing that I am, that I say that I am.
Mm.
You know, so it's like basically by the meditative chant of om, I am affirming something in myself. In other words, I am stroking my own ego. How's that for a little mental masturbation right there?
Somebody just fell off their chair right there when you said
Yeah,
that.
some religious person just died right now.
Well, here's the thing to me. Like one of the issues that I had within Christianity was this whole concept of the flesh, this whole dualism
Mm,
idea.
come on, man.
And the flesh was bad. And so, we starved the flesh and called it fasting. We, whatever. I mean, I was hardcore at one point. I mean,
Oh, me too, man.
I didn't listen to secular music. I didn't go to movies. I
Ooh,
didn't, I was into all that shit. And and then, spent all this time trying to crucify the flesh, and I didn't get out of that mess and out of that trap just to come back and do the same thing, only call it ego instead of flesh.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yep.
Like we say, like it's common to say in some spiritual circles, we're non-judgmental, we don't make judgments. Oh, but the ego's bad.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't say that, but
yeah.
you got to get rid of your ego. You got to become ego-less and just merge with divine consciousness, and that's the secret to ending suffering and the secret to life. And I don't know if I agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that. Matter of fact, I think that when we really tap into ourselves, and this is why I say this all the time, and people get really mad when I say it, but I say I'm God.
Hmm.
I'm God, just like Big G God. And
Hmm.
they say, well, you don't create any worlds. And I'm like, well, you don't know. You don't know
Right.
that. What happens when I say something? What happens when I breathe? I exhale. I exhale something. What's happening in the quantum realm when I do that? If I cut a fart, what am I doing? Honestly, you don't know what happens when you scale that down to the quantum level. You don't know.
It's
And,
true.
and so the thing is that if you if you divest yourself of yourself, right? How can anybody have empathy and compassion for something that is the same as themselves? You follow what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
I think
It's
so.
like,
Yeah.
for me to have empathy and compassion with you means that I respect your
Right.
differences.
Right.
Because if I don't respect if I'm not willing to respect or even acknowledge your differences, how can I say that I have empathy or compassion for that? Empathy and compassion begins with recognizing there is a difference. So all of
Yep.
this thing about crucifying flesh and trying to achieve this oneness, it's like it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's never going to happen, right? Now
Right.
everybody who's watching is going to be entertained by this, but is it going to really help you? And the answer is
Right.
no.
No. No. And that comes back to this ethic thing. Like, so the idea is if I dissolve my ego, I dissolve my sense of separation, and I realize I'm one with everything.
Mhm.
And so if I do something to you, Derek, I'm doing it to myself, both for good and for evil. That's
Yeah.
kind of the general teaching. Now, like I said, that'll get you so far, but isn't that kind of like narcissism on steroids? Like, I'm just treating you good because I don't want it to come back on me karmically. I'm just treating you good because I don't want to
Wow.
reap any negative seeds, or
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not going to speak ugly at you because whatever energy I'm putting out, I don't want it coming back at me. That is that really how we want to do our ethics? Martin Buber was a 20th century Jewish writer, and he
Mhm.
wrote a book called The I and the Thou. And
Mhm.
he talked about how in the Western world we relate to other people as the I and the thing. And I'll never forget reading his book. It's been 20 years since I read his book, but he'll talk about, like, the waitress. Let's just say the waitress brings you the wrong meal, or, screws up, having a bad day, blows you off, whatever.
Yep.
In that moment, if you're thinking I and thou, you're realizing that's a person there.
Yep.
uh, I don't know what's going on in that person's world, but I'm going to treat that person with respect, regardless of how it's impacting me. But when you get into this I and the thing, the extension of yourself, thinking, well, she's just here to serve me. This whole moment is just about my food and my satisfaction. And so, damn it, let me talk to the manager or whatever, right?
Yep.
I'll never forget. I had a good friend when I was in my 20s. I sold electronics for Montgomery Wards
Okay.
in my early 20s, and yeah, that's dating me. And my friend was selling in furniture, and his daughter, 15-year-old daughter, had committed suicide. She it was when Prozac had first come out, and they didn't know really back then. They weren't fully aware of how some antidepressants could increase suicidal ideations and stuff.
Yeah.
And so she was taking Prozac, and she ended up ODing on Prozac and killing herself. And the corporate culture being what it is, you have like 3 days bereavement or something for a
Yeah.
close relative. So he's back on the job a week later, and I remember he's standing. I walked by, he's standing there at his register, and this guy is just chewing him up one side and down the other. I mean, just being totally ugly and hateful to him
Mm.
because he got the wrong pattern or something on his sofa, or he got the wrong merchandise. And I'm sitting here thinking, and here's my friend, trying his best to be gracious and to serve and play his part. And I thought, you have no idea. I mean, you're acting like it's the end of the world because you got the wrong pattern on
Yeah.
yourself, and you have no idea that less than a week ago, this man walked into his daughter's bedroom and found her dead.
Wow.
And that's where I think Martin Buber's thing is so powerful. If we respect the I, if we respect the ego,
Mhm.
then I can enter into your world and realize that you're every bit as much a sovereign consciousness, point of consciousness, a sovereign human being. You've got feelings, you've got a reality about you that I know nothing of, and I owe you respect just based on that. So if I can begin to think like that, you're not an extension of me. Oh, I just do Friday nights with Derek, and that's just what I do.
You're right.
You are a thou. That's kind of what Martin Buber was looking at, and to me, that's a higher form of ethics than just this sort of karmic thing. If I do something to you, I'm doing it to myself.
I think that if I look at you, I look at you, Aaron, and I say, you are God,
Hmm.
right? So if I operate by my old Christian paradigm, right, in
Hmm.
conjunction with that understanding, that means I owe you worship,
Mm.
that I owe you honor, that I owe you
Yes.
respect, and I owe you love, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
so if I see you as God, then that means I'm not going to do anything to offend you. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure that you feel sufficiently gratified by our encounter.
Yeah.
And I you know what, I have another experience to share. Uh, when I was living in Arkansas, I was studying martial arts with this guy Brad Garrison. I don't know if Brad might, sometimes he lurks in the shadows when I post stuff. So I'm just putting him out there. But Brad told me one time, he said, whenever you have a conflict, Derek, you need to formulate 600 questions as to why the conflict occurred.
Wow.
And I was like, I was like, holy fuck. I said, 600 questions. That's a lot of fucking questions, right?
Yeah,
So one
yeah.
time I'm in Walmart, and this is no joke. I'm in Walmart after work, and this guy cuts in front of me in line. I mean, I'm walking up to the register, and he just shoots right in there. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, I'm going to whoop his ass. That was the first thing. The first thing that came to my mind is,
Sure.
I'm going to whoop this guy. I'm going to fuck him up.
Yeah.
And then the voice of Brad started speaking to me. 600 questions. I said, okay, Sifu, 600 questions. And so I start formulating these questions. You know, did this guy have a bad day at work? Is this guy's bills, are his bills paid? Is he in good health? Did his wife give him sex last night? You know, are his kids behaving? And I start asking all of these questions, and I'm just, you know, knocking off these questions, and I'm counting them as I'm asking them.
Wow.
And so finally, I stepped up to the guy and I said, hey, man, I don't know what's going on in your life. I said, but obviously there was something that told you that you had to get in this line before I did. And I just want to recognize that whatever it is, brother, I feel your pain.
Wow.
Now, mind you, let me say this also, because I'm in Arkansas and this is a white guy, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm a black dude, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm
I
taking
know the
all of this
culture.
into consideration. And the guy said, you know what, man? I'm sorry. I was just, you know, my wife needed something. She wanted me to get something right away. I had to stop doing what I was doing to go do this. And I'm just, you know, and he's like telling me, he said, I'm all stressed out. And I said, dude, I get it. You know, so I extended a handshake to him and I said, hey, you know, it's all good, man. You know, it's all good. And so I went back. This was on a Tuesday night. I used to meet with Brad on Wednesdays. So I went back to Brad and I said, well, Brad, I had a conflict. And he said, great. Because that was his answer to everything. It's great. And so I said, yeah. So I started asking questions. I said, but I couldn't formulate 600 questions. And he just broke out laughing hysterically. And he said, 600 is a ridiculous number, Derek. You're never going to get to 600. But if by asking questions, he says, so how many questions did you ask? And I told him, I said, 125.
Oh my gosh.
He said, so you had 125 data points.
Wow.
By which you were able to make a smooth decision. And watch this. Like if you've ever like been in a drawing or drafting or anything like that, like I learned how to make circles without a compass. I would take my engineering scale or my ruler, and I would just start by making points around the center of this, you know, whatever size I wanted the circle to be. And I realized that the more data points I had, the smoother circle I had.
Wow.
Right? So what he was saying is that, okay, by creating enough data points, what you were able to do was to not subordinate your ego, but to make your ego work for you.
Yeah.
To come up with the proper number of data points to come up with a rational response to, because see, like a lot of times we're like this, right?
Yeah.
And but if you take this and do it, you know, over a long enough period of time, it begins to look like this.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the thing. I learned that and this goes back to your point. It wasn't about me in that moment at all. It was about seeing this guy as human and not some appendage to my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, Derek. Man, I'm so glad I get to do this with you because I learn and grow every time, man. I mean, that's just,
dude, me too.
that is just rich right there. Man. Now, you couldn't do that, though, if you didn't have an ego.
You couldn't,
Or you
because
couldn't do that. You couldn't do that if you were just doing unto others,
right,
because you only have that one point of view, how this is affecting me in my life.
right. Even what they tell us, they said, love others as you love yourself. You know, that means that I'm only going to give according to the measure that I think I should get.
Right.
And the reality is that it takes ego to give more than what you're expecting in return.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a strong ego, right?
Yeah.
It takes a person who's, so I think when I'm talking about a strong ego, I'm talking about a person who knows who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And by knowing who they are, they know that they are not their mind. All right. So
Yep.
give a shout out to some of the spiritual teachers out there. I'm not my mind, because my mind has changed
Yep.
a lot. I'm not my emotions, because the way I feel now may be totally different than I feel in 2 hours.
Yep.
I'm not my body, because my body's unfortunately getting older.
Yeah. Oh
I'm not
boy.
the same guy I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? But I am still me. I mean, I'm still that center, that point of consciousness. And so if I have a weak ego, then I'm insecure.
Yep.
If I have a weak ego, I'm easily offended. If I have a weak ego, I have to be right. My point of view. If you come at my point of view, you're coming at me.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong about that, what else am I wrong about? And that makes me feel weak and insecure.
Yeah.
Those are all symptoms of a weak ego, right? But somebody that truly knows themselves, truly knows himself as God, let's just say that,
Yeah.
knows himself as an eternal being,
Yeah.
knows himself as more than what's in that moment, and enjoys themselves, loves themselves, I like all my quirkiness. I
Yeah.
didn't used to. I didn't used to. I'll be honest with you. But I've in the last few years, I've fallen in love with the things that set me apart.
Yeah.
Even if the other people think they're odd or whatever. But that allows me to go through life with balance, and also not be so easily threatened. So I can, I love a good argument.
Me not so much anymore. I enjoy a good discussion. I really believe that you don't necessarily have to argue in order to have a
Right.
discussion. Now there's some people that I like the debate with, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, arguing not so much. That's just me. Your mileage may vary, but
I just mean I don't I'm not I don't mind when somebody has a different opinion. And I also don't feel the need to subject mine to theirs. And
yeah,
so, if you're going to come at me, I'm going to come back at you. Now, I don't like the nastiness, certainly, that we're seeing in our country today, and I don't like the division. I think I almost did a live video just on my own about, it's a shame as Americans that we can't come together.
yeah.
That's just something that just
But
bothers me.
here's the thing. It's like ego, right? If I'm secure in myself, and I think about this, like all of the different people I see, like Jamal Broadnax on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And this guy is a strong personality, right? You're
yeah,
a
right,
strong personality. Vanessa Brooks is a strong personality. Kyle Butler is a strong personality. And in order for you to sit down and have a discussion in a forum like this,
right,
where it's open and naked, to the
right,
world,
right,
if you're not securing yourself, you'll think that you have to rumroll whoever it is that you're with,
right.
or you'll think that you have to just completely slink back into the shadows.
Yep.
And so what I've learned is that it's ego that allows us to be the kind of teachers that we've become.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of the things that I really love about you is that you're able to assert yourself without being, without being pushy, right? And this is the thing. I'm gonna say something vulgar here, y'all. Hide your children, right? But opinions are like penises, right? It's like, every guy has one, right? But not everybody wants it in their face.
Yeah.
See, so the thing is that what ego says is that I'm so secure in myself that I don't necessarily need to impress my will upon you
Right.
in
Right.
order to exchange with you.
Right.
I can say, okay, I see your point. I see the beauty in what you're saying. I see the benefit in what you're saying. And I see the God in you. So I'm able to not only just sit back and enjoy what you're saying, but to actually honor and venerate
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I don't know why my mind went here, but I'm just going to do this
Go
because
ahead, man.
you said it's election week, right? Like we're going to know next week's. We'll know by the time we do this again, probably
Yeah.
what we're in for the next 4 years, right? And we share the same political aspirations, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And we were talking a few weeks ago, and in my mind, just because of the environment I live in, lots of reasons without going into it, like we were talking to a friend last night. I'll just put it this way: we were talking to a friend last night, and we're going to have an election. We're going to have an election night party, and if there is not a change in the administration, we are going to get drunk. We are going to get sufficiently hammered.
Yeah.
We already said, come on over. We'll have the drinks. We're just, if it goes bad, we'll just drown our sorrows. Because I'd been looking at this thing thinking I can't survive another 4 years of
Yeah.
this president. I just can't do it.
No.
And it's not just the president, it's his damn followers
Yeah.
that I don't know if I can do this. Like seriously. Like I'm
No.
seriously thinking about other countries. Like for real.
Yeah.
But I was being weak in one sense, and we were talking about this a few weeks ago. Maybe it was even the first one we did, and I mentioned something about, oh man, if that guy gets reelected, and you said this, Derek. You said I'm a chess player, and you said no matter what, me and my family, we're going to be fine.
We're going to be good.
And I got to tell you, bro, that set me free. I mean, I listened, and that was a nugget. I thought, oh shit, he's right. And this is where having a strong ego comes in. Because if you got a weak ego, then you're a victim to whoever's in office. You're a
Mm-hmm.
victim to the guy that cut in front of you in line. You're a victim to being unemployed or not able to sell something. But if you got a strong ego, then and you stay in situations. People stay in bad relationships because they think that's the only relationship they can get. They don't have the
Yep.
confidence that if I leave this relationship, I have the goods to attract and draw other friendships or other relationships or other, depending on the relationship, other lovers, whatever it is. But somebody with a strong ego, they can navigate that change, right? They can have that resilience, that stuff that we were talking about.
Yep.
And that really helped me because I thought, you know what? I'll be damned if I'm going to fold my hand based on an election result. And I've just been thinking about it. I am going to be fine.
Yep.
Me and my family, we are going to be fine. We may have to strategically do some things different. It wouldn't be my preference. But I don't know that we're going to be all that great off in the other administration either. So either way,
Yep.
I got to be okay with the result and understand I got the goods to make it through whatever
Yep.
administration we get stuck with, because that's basically what's going to happen anyway, and get through it
And
and
that goes
thrive.
back to what I was saying about mindfulness, right? Is like being here now. Because people will hear that. They'll say, okay, you're saying, Derek, be here now. That means don't plan. And that's not what I'm saying, right?
Right.
You still have to plan. You still have to strategize. You have to look down the road. You have to look downrange. And you have to say, okay, what does this mean if this happens, right?
Right.
What I'm saying is that in between here and there are going to be a whole bunch of right nows,
Right.
and you are going to have to be secure enough in yourself, and also to delight in the people around you to the point where you're able to actually be here now,
Right.
and to be mindful of your moments, because the thing is that how many times have you been in a conversation and you're thinking about your next appointment?
Right.
or you're thinking about the next thing. Like I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a meeting, but I know me and my wife are going to go out to dinner, and then we're gonna go out, and we're gonna listen to some jazz, and we're gonna have some drinks, and then we're gonna go home, and things are going to be really nice. You know what I'm thinking? That wow, that's actually pretty good. But what happens is that somebody will say something in a meeting that I'm in right now, excuse me, that I miss because I'm thinking downrange.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the thing is, you have to plan, you have to prepare, you have to be a chess player. I mean, honestly,
Yep.
if you're going to survive in this life, you have to be a chess player. But the thing is that in addition to, I tell my kids, like when we play, I've taught them all how to play chess, and I teach them to play 5 moves ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look downrange, 5 moves, right? But you got to watch what this guy is doing right now. You got to watch
Mm-hmm.
where your pieces are on the board right now. You have to be mindful of that. And again, here, this is the thing, that without ego, you run the risk of mental, spiritual, and emotional stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
You run
Sure.
the risk of being stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too with the planning and being present, be present while you're planning.
Yep. Oh, good, dude. That's memeable. Somebody make a meme about that if you're watching.
But I mean, like Eckhart Tolle, I think people misunderstand him. You know, he wrote the book The Power of Now, and he talks a lot about the ego being taking you out of the present moment because you're thinking about the future, about the past. But he also talks about observing your mind.
Mm.
So if you're planning, be present with the fact that you're planning. If you're remembering, if you're grieving, be present with the fact that you're grieving. If you're
Mm.
remembering, be present with the fact that you're remembering. And then you're okay. You're still in the present moment. You're just present to the fact that you're doing an activity with intention and purpose.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, and I
Yep.
couldn't agree more. And but there has to be a self confidence. Like there has to be, like I feel sorry for people that, like part of having a strong ego to me, Derek, is I don't have to change my mind because you said something
Mm.
or somebody else said something. I can think for myself, right?
Yep.
But so many people, if somebody doesn't like them, somebody criticizes them, and they grew up with that. You know, like I'm a counselor. I meet people all the time that don't have strong egos, and they
Yep.
grew up with being told they were worthless and being told they were, you know, a piece of shit, and then it got reinforced with bullies in school, and then the boss on the job, and whatever. And so their whole sense of self is dictated to them. Excuse me, is dictated to them by what other people have said about them
Mm.
rather than coming from really a place of learning to honor and value the person that they are, giving it to themselves. So you know, people will say, "Well, I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up in an affirming family. I didn't grow up in a nurturing family. My dad was always telling me I had my head up my ass, or you know, whatever the case may be." And I say, I use this example. Like, if you ever met somebody, or if you can imagine meeting somebody that's anorexic,
Mm.
and I mean that person's just a bag of bones, right? And they're still starving themselves.
Yep.
And you try to tell them, you know, you're really skinny, you're really thin, like you're one of the thinnest people I ever met. And they can hear all that, but then they're going to go look in the mirror and they're not going to see a skinny person.
Right.
It does not matter how much you affirm them. It does not matter how much you nurture them. It does not matter how much you try to argue with them and tell them that they're too thin or they're too skinny or they're killing themselves or whatever. When they look in the mirror, what they see is a fat person.
Mm.
So until they can start internalizing that affirmation, until they can start giving that to themselves. So a person that was nurtured, they have advantages, don't misunderstand me, but not if they don't internalize it.
Right.
So somebody who you know just thinks they're a piece of shit or thinks they're weak or thinks they can't navigate through life or they can't play chess or they're not smart enough or they can't make it or whatever, you just internalize the wrong messages.
Yeah.
You affirmed to yourself the negative side. Now, if you could take that skill, that ability to affirm to yourself and declare to yourself, and you could turn that around and you can start looking at the positive things and start affirming good things about yourself using that same skill, that
Mm.
same ability, but internalizing and getting that sense of identity from yourself, that's a strong ego.
Yeah.
Like my ego doesn't depend on what even my wife thinks about me at the moment, you know, because there are lots of times she doesn't think that I'm that
Yo,
great.
dude.
You know what I mean? And if I just fell apart at that, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we all have to learn to get that kind of stuff from ourselves, and that's part of developing that strong ego, I think.
So
I
so
kind of
here,
went off on a rabbit trail
no,
there,
no,
but
no, that's great, man. So let me ask you this. Like if you can you look in the mirror and see the right thing without a proper ego alignment?
I don't think so.
You know, and I think that a lot of people who they don't think highly of themselves, they don't look in the mirror and see something positive, or you know when you're having that mindful moment, right?
Right,
Okay,
right.
what are you oming when you ohm? What are you affirming in your mind, right? And that the thing that you are affirming in your mind is the thing that you speak. I am healthy. I
Hmm.
am strong. I am prosperous. I am worthy. You know, whatever it is, I am, right? You
Hmm.
know, this is so funny. I hate to, well, no, I don't hate to, but one of my favorite shows is Rick and Morty.
Okay.
It, it's a cartoon, and it's crazy. But there was this instance where allegedly Rick, who is his grandfather, a mad scientist guy, had sex with a planet,
Oh.
and the planet begins to volcanically birth all of these beings, right? And they kind of sort of look like him, right? They have the spiky hairdo and stuff. But what's funny is that every one of these things that's birth, it's saying I am, I
Mm.
am, I am. That's the first word that comes out of his mouth. I am, I am, I am. So this I am, you know, can you effectively I am something affirming
Right.
without ego?
No.
No.
No, and I would even argue that part of, so one of my presuppositions, you know, this can't be proven scientifically or anything, but one of my presuppositions is that we are eternal beings, we are God,
Yep.
we are an emanation of God, and we are here in this human body to grow into who we can become, potential wise, right? To create worlds, like you mentioned creating worlds. Like maybe we have that potential, but maybe we're learning right now to create outcomes.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of this place as like if people that follow Star Trek, I didn't follow it much, but I knew enough to know about the holodeck, you know,
Yep.
where they could go into a simulation and practice outcomes without, you know, too much damage.
Right.
And I kind of think of this dense world that we're in. It's kind of like the holodeck.
That's a
Like it
good.
takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to manifest something. Like my thoughts and feelings don't just manifest. And if they did, I would have manifested a lot of terrible stuff because there've been a lot of
Oh
times.
boy.
You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of look at it that way. But your ego is something that you create. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but you know, Tony Robbins, he did a thing for Netflix called "I'm Not Your Guru," and he stands on the platform at the beginning of the show, and he says, "I built this motherfucker. What you're looking at, I built this motherfucker." And people might think he's talking about the conference, he's talking about his industry, he's talking about his brand. No, he's talking about himself.
Yep.
He's saying, I custom designed what you're seeing before you right now. And so I think the ego is sort of like that. It's like a playground where we can create ourselves. And if there's something you don't like about yourself, you can, you know, recreate that. You can
Change it.
recreate that.
Yep.
And so the ego is not the divine self in my world, in my understanding, but it is the persona that I wear. It is the person that I put out there. And it could be like clay in the potter's hands, right? Like
Yep.
I don't like this the way I don't like my way of being in this area of my life.
Hmm.
So I'm going to change that, and it's going to begin with how I'm affirming and how I'm seeing myself and how I mean, dude, I graduated high school in the frickin' barely. The math teacher
You
out
and me
there, I
both.
won't say his name because he follows me still, and I love that man. That man is a Trump supporter to the bone. That man is as evangelical as they come, and I love that man because he let me cheat my way through Algebra 2 so I could graduate. I mean, he practically helped me, right? And and so I never thought of myself as an intelligent person. You know, I just never did. And I flunked out of college. I absolutely flunked out of college in my 20s. And I decided to go back in my 30s, but I took myself through this process where I started affirming I am an intelligent person.
Yep.
I am intelligent. I am smart. And I recreated that aspect of myself. So when I went back to college, well, I was 34 when I went back and got my degree in psychology and then on to my master's, and I got straight A's all the way through. And it was easy for me, but it was because I had transformed that part of my thinking. I was
Yeah.
experiencing what I believed because I had a learning disability probably when it came to math. And
You and me both.
really, we got a lot in common. Yeah, you're an engineer. Come on, man. That's not even fair
No,
of you to
no,
say.
listen, true story, right? Calculus. I didn't. It took me 3 attempts to pass calculus, and when I did pass it, I got a D in it, right? And
That
so
was me in algebra.
when I went through my degree program, right, it was a 2+2 degree, right? So I
Yeah.
went to community college for 2 years, and then I went to a university, right? And so I was concerned that this grade wouldn't transfer, and now I have to take calculus at the university instead of the community college.
Oh
And they
man.
said, "Oh no, dude, you're good. It's all of your grades, anything passing transfers, right?" And I was like, "Whew, thank you, Jesus," because I couldn't imagine going through calculus again. You know, like dentists, right? Dentists call the shit that they scrape off your teeth calculus.
No, I didn't
That
know that.
literally, that's what they call it. They call it calculus. And so I'm thinking about, the calculus is this hard ass math that clings to shit, right? Oh my God.
Dude, I went into psychology because I didn't have to take a math class in college. I barely passed algebra the third time with a D.
It's funny, like every standardized test that I've ever taken, the Stanford test, the ACT, the SAT, it says that, hey, you're like a borderline math prodigy. And I'm like, I don't fucking get it, because it's like if you ask me to do anything beyond just simple multiplication, I'm like,
Well, Derek, you made me feel better about myself. Thank you, brother.
hey, no problem, man. Listen, math is hard. There was this there's a guy, he's a Facebook friend of mine, but he's an artist, he's a cartoon artist. His name is Tim Spike Davis. And
Uh,
and so he does these Christian cartoons, and he's like, he shows this thing that Jesus is like, I tell you, you have to forgive your enemy 70 times 7. And Peter is like in the background, and he's like, holy shit, you mean I have to memorize math too?
oh, that's great. That's great. I love that. I
you
love
know
that.
so but again, it's like, what you were saying is that you had to go back and tell yourself some things about yourself in order for you to get to where you are now.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so our ego, like Tony Robbins say, man, I built this motherfucker, right?
Right.
I was talking with one of my colleagues today, and I was explaining to him that the guy you see that speaks up to senior management, that guy didn't always exist. I was a shy kid,
Yeah.
but
I was
something
too.
something said, build this motherfucker. and
Yeah.
and that's what I did. And so I look at you, and I look at some others, and I think about, what's really interesting is that a lot of us, I look at Vanessa, and I look at Jamal, and Tony Calloway, and a lot of others, and if you talk to these people at a very fundamental level, you'll find that they had some things that they had to overcome.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and so they had to build this motherfucker. It's like something that they had uh, to reach down inside themselves and say, I see something beautiful. I see something
Yes.
valuable. I see
Yes.
something worthy. And I'm going to reach down inside and pull this out and then express it to the world.
Right.
And that's what I see ego as. It's like,
Yep.
no, this is not my spiritual being, but this is the motherfucker that I built.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, bro, I'm gonna have to go get my kids, I think. So
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour anyway. But man, Aaron, I'm gonna tell you something, man. I could just go on and on with you, brother. I love
likewise.
you, man.
Love you too, man.
You are the shit for real. I really enjoy these conversations.
Thank you.
And,
Likewise. Likewise.
and so to everybody that's watching, namaste. We bless you.
Namaste.
And
Namaste.
we'll check you out later.
Sounds great. Talk
Peace.
to you later, Derek.
All right.
Love you,
Love
man.
you, man. Peace.